I want to do is I just want to go through and Sarah and Carla are listening to the class, and they're putting together kind of some key study points that we can all work on. You know, and also I want to acknowledge. It's so important. I want to acknowledge Sarah and Carla for taking time to do that for everyone. Just such a wonderful gift. And also, Marissa, she willingly, whenever she's able to transcribe the entire talk into the written word and then email it to us. So you can listen to the visit, listen to it in the spoken word, but I would really recommend that in addition to the spoken word that you read it, because it's a different experience and it has a different level of penetration and absorption. Because the spoken word, I listened to what was said, and to me it was just some amazing truth, but it's a lot to listen to. So when things come through me, it's a lot to listen to. And we just need to acknowledge that. And sometimes it's like we're trying to drink from a fire hydrant, and we want to get every drop in our mouth, but we just can't. So when I listen to what's said, I had that same experience, and I found myself constantly stopping and going back and listening to things because I was so moved by some things that I needed to hear them again to actually let them have an effect on me. Does that sound familiar to anybody else as you did that? It's very powerful truth. I'm very blessed by it. So the written word gives us the opportunity to go back and make a study of it, kind of like the book. So we can really go back and look at some of the things that were said, and we can draw more from it. As well, with these things being emailed out, if you make sure that you're on the email list with Sarah, you get all this stuff just emailed out to you every week automatically. So really so grateful for everyone who's just already come together to make this more of a deep, fulfilling experience. And I just want to thank everyone who's being a part of that. And more of you will continue to be a part of it in your own way as we go forward. There's no doubt about that. When there's a need and something comes up, I know there's so many people in this room that are waiting for the right opportunity to contribute in the way that they're being called from their heart. So when you do something for us here at the practice, we don't do it because you're being called from your head. We do it because you're being called from your heart to do something. If you're not being called from your heart, that's okay. Just wait until you are. Wait until you are. So they came up with some focus points for the class, and so the first question was remembering not to judge where we are at in our spiritual journey. With compassion, ask ourselves where we're at. What does my spiritual life look like, and where do I want it to be? Okay. So just be with that question. Okay, and if anyone has. Did anyone come up with some answers for themselves for the first question? Karen, what did you write down?
I wrote down that my spiritual life feels lonely, that I want to be a presence of peace, and I would like to have a community of people who practice the principles in the book.
Yeah. Now this is so important, and and this is just kind of go with me now. We're in the expiration, inspiration. Okay, we all expired, so we could be inspired, and the hour's going to fly. It's going to fly. This is the most common thing I hear as people deeply enter into the practice. They know it's the truth. They know it's the way. They feel it. They just know it. But they're lonely. And I have such a wonderful, wonderful experience because I get to be with all of you. And so through the different phases of evolution, this is what this is about, Karen. And you know that. This is why we're together. We need to be together. We need to be together. We're wonderful by ourselves, okay? But it does get lonely. Because sometimes, you're not in the same place as your spouse. Me and my wife's a born-again Christian, and that's where she's at, and I'm happy for her there, because she finds great peace in that belief, and that's wonderful. If something gives you complete peace and it's good for you, it's wonderful. There's no problem with that. But I'm not in that place of religion. I don't, everyone knows me. I'm not in that context. It's not in my highest good to hold myself to a specific place. I'm just here to be here for all religions, all people, all things. Okay? So for me to be with all of you every day that are sharing in this with me, I don't have that sense of loneliness, okay? Because I'm so lucky I get to be with all of you wonderful people all the time. And I bring that into your lives, and we help to be that for each other. But that's not sustainable. This is sustainable. To be here for each other is sustainable. So that's very powerful. How do I begin to practice? Did anyone write that down? Anyone have an answer for that at all? How do I start to practice? Anybody? Okay. Go ahead.
Just start.
That's it. Just start. You just start. How do we start anything? We start. So now we're going to, and this is the next question, is tools for learning, specific excerpts from the book, Meditation Journaling, Utilizing the Metta. And we're already starting to disseminate some of those tools, you know. The wonderful dictations and the girls putting the questions together and the book and us getting together and lovingly holding each other accountable as a community, okay? What we'll also do as we go forward is, it'll naturally develop. I'm putting these inspirations out there because it'll just naturally happen. As we get into the work and you'll find yourself, I kind of want a mentor. I want someone to help me. I want someone who's been in the practice, a little longer, okay? And so as we go forward, I'd love to develop a mentorship program where, I think the practice can be divided up into, beginners, intermediate, and advanced. And there's general categories. It's no defined lines, but, people's behavior and context, and they either feel pretty comfortable with staying in the place of the practice most of the time. If they are, then they're more advanced. If they're kind of in and out of the practice, depending on situations, they're more intermediate. And if they're really just starting to get their feet wet into what the heck this is all about, then they're beginner, okay? So I think an honest thing to put on our name tags going forward, oh, thank you, God, what a beautiful inspiration, okay? Because I think that everyone just needs to, between now and next week, to make a really honest assessment of where they're at in the practice, without ego, just purely from a place of love. Where am I at within this practice right now? And I want you to put, okay, A, I, or B on your name tag, okay? And this will be really fun, because it'll really hold us accountable. So let's say that next week you come in and you put, you think, you know what, I'm going to put I, I'm an intermediate, all right? And then you get into class and you start trying to mentor someone, and a beginner comes up to you and says, hey, can I ask you a couple questions? And as they ask you the questions, you're like, wow, I'm not an intermediate. I'm a beginner, all right? We're in love here. You just say, you know what, gosh, thanks for asking me these questions. I think I'm more of a beginner than an intermediate. I'm going to change the letter on my name tag to B. So you're never held to it. It's all, you're just doing the best you can, and you really don't know where you're at until you're confronted with certain situations. And what we'll do is after a good, couple months of that, everyone will start to really be comfortable with where they're at, and then we can start to really settle into a regular mentorship program where if you really need someone and you want to get someone's email address, or you just want someone to be able to touch base with, you want someone when you're in those moments, and and once a week in class maybe just isn't enough time or enough space. Let's just let those friendships develop naturally, because mentorships are nothing more than, having an older brother or an older sister to call on so that you don't have to go through something by yourself. You can just touch base. And again, I'm so honored that I've been an older brother to so many of you, okay? But I need to make it about the group. So I'm always going to be here, but it needs to be about you being here for each other. That's what it's really all about. And being here for each other the way that we practice living life. What am I doing each day to serve myself, i.e. self-care? As a part of this, what am I doing that brings me joy? Okay. Remember, self-love, this is one of the first, we used to call them Keithisms, but I don't like that name from anymore because it includes mine. So we'll just call them pearls of wisdom or whatever else we want to call them, okay? Self-love is not selfish. It's what I do for myself so that I can be all that I can be for everything around me. So, and there's this huge energy that we need to completely cleanse ourselves of. It's a martyr energy, Higher consciousness does not want martyrs. It wants people who demonstrate self-love, love towards others, and balance between them. We can only be as good for the world as we can be for ourselves. As long as we are being good and loving to ourselves with the intention of loving ourselves so that we can fulfill a divine destiny in the world, then there's no selfishness in that. We are bringing it in so that we can give it out. So do things that make you happy. Do things that give you joy. Do things that make you smile and laugh. Simple things. How many people have noticed in the last week that they've taken a little time to smell the flowers and smell spring? How many people have done that? Raise a hand. Yeah. Okay. There's something to be learned if you haven't raised your hand. Enjoy that. It's beautiful. Life is being brought into existence. Always celebrate that. As you celebrate that life being brought into existence, you celebrate your own life going through those same seasons being brought into existence. Don't ever miss nature around you. It's an incredible slideshow. Always going on all the time. How many people watched the sunset last week or looked at the sun setting at some point last week? Hands up. Okay. This is awareness, isn't it? Beautiful sunsets last week. Simple things. How much does it cost to watch a sunset? Nothing. God's the great artist. Paints a beautiful picture every night, every morning. I'm practicing watching as many sunrises and sunsets as I can. Because I really feel if there's ever a point, and I know there is coming, that I'm not on this planet anymore, I think that would be one of the things I would miss the most, is watching the sunrise and watching the sunset. It's such a majestic experience. It's such a beautiful, eternal timekeeper. It doesn't keep time of years. It just separates one experience from another. It just reminds us of transition. So simple things like that. Reflection questions. We're going to be looking at this. What are my fears? Okay, did anybody write down what some of their fears are right now? Anybody writing this down? Yes?
Judgment.
Yeah. Yeah. And if we have time, I'm going to kind of being guided right now about how we're going to start off this. But I'm tempted to talk a little bit about Chaz and have Chaz talk.
Question. Where did you get, where did these come from? Are they?
These?
Yeah.
These came from Sarah and Carla going through the whole talk and pulling out.
How did people get them?
Oh, where did you get them?
Yeah, I wasn't, I guess I'm not on an email list.
Okay, make sure you're on the email list with Sarah. Okay, and then we'll send you these. And what we're doing is, this is great. This is all needs to come up. So this is a good question. We want to get everybody that's, even if you can't make it to every class every week, it's okay. We want to make this something that's sustainable for you. That you don't have to be here for every week to keep on track. So that you can do your homework every week. You can watch the class, read the class, do your homework. And then when you come to class, you'll be right on track with where we're at. Okay? And if you're not, this is not some, if you miss, this is not like we're teaching math. If you miss like 2 classes, don't bother coming. You know what I'm saying? It's not that kind of class. It's an ongoing just class of continuous, spontaneous guidance and lessons that we're letting God bestow upon us that we can learn from. But the reason we're doing it this way is I don't want anyone to miss any of the lessons, and I want everyone to have a sense of accountability and follow through in their own space, okay? So just make sure Sarah has your email. We're going to be emailing out all this stuff to everyone on our email list, right, Sarah?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay. So Sarah, talk to Sarah.
Okay.
Talk to yourself, okay?
Yeah, I'll talk.
Chaz, what is fear? Is judgment. Okay, well, the best thing we have going for us in this room right now is we had that sign outside the door this week, right? And that sign said what? Leave all what? Judgments at the what? At the door, okay? So when we're together, okay, we do not judge each other. We love each other, we accept each other, we're honest with each other, but we don't judge. This is a place where we don't do that. We really, really work hard to leave them at the door. And if we do judge someone, okay, without knowing, we just apologize. I'm sorry, that probably sounded a bit judgmental. Again, we just change the letter on our tag. We don't get caught in something. We just, as soon as we become conscious of it, we just say, oh, geez, I didn't need to do that. That could have been misinterpreted. We let it go. We let it go. We let it go. We let it go. So that every time you're with everybody in this room, you have nothing that you're trying to avoid about them. You have nothing that you're trying to hide. There's no reason to do that because we're together forever in one form or another. So why maintain an existing conflict between? It doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense. And when you have a fear of judgment, okay, it stops you from embracing your authenticity, your individuality, who you really are, right? And you can't do that anyway, right, Chaz? Because who God makes us to be is who we are. And we start where we start, we are who we are, and we're all just how we're supposed to be, and it's all about letting each other be that way. We're all here to be respectful, loving individuals. This isn't a kindergarten class of spirituality. In my opinion, in my humble opinion, I think the practice is just, like I've told before, it's one of the hardest spiritual practices you can be in. So we're all here to do the best we can. It's implied, right? So we don't have to have that fear of judgment. Now, in the world out there, okay, we have to realize that judgment is based in ignorance. That anyone who's continuing to live based on judging others is really living in constant judgment of themselves. And we have to have compassion, because the judgment they hold on themselves is far worse than the judgments they're putting out on everybody else. So we can be honest and truthful and say, please don't be judgmental towards me. It's not good for you. Please, I ask you, please don't be judgmental. It's not good for you to be that way. And speaking truth, right? And if they listen to that, they listen to it. They don't, they don't. But they've been told the truth. And they can be free if they wish. Okay? What are my self-judgments? Okay. Am I too heavy? Am I too thin? Am I smart? Am I not smart? Do I have the right shaped eyes? Do I have this? Am I successful enough? Okay. All that kind of stuff, right? All that stuff that we judge ourselves on is completely impermanent. You are loved. You are loved. Your love animating matter. So over time you'll realize that. Okay? It doesn't make any sense to think of yourself as anything other than that. What would love do? That's what you want. What changed in my awareness? Okay, so this is a good one, so I'm going to get some feedback on this. What changed in your awareness, okay, of your interior and exterior since the last class? I want people to raise their hands. What did anyone notice from the last class to this class that changed for them, or that they noticed changing in their life? Can anyone give me an example of something they noticed? Come on.
Oh, yeah. You were playing in my head, Dr. Rusty, where are you? What you said, your definition of slave and servant, it was so powerful to me. And I can't really put it into words other than a feeling. And each day I came up with a different definition and a comfortability factor. And I said, son of a gun, I can mop the floor, and I will do it with a different attitude because I'm no longer a slave.
Yes.
So this,
It's
a
transformation.
motorbound thing, but I hope that kind of understands.
It's beautiful. Everyone can relate to that?
Really is.
Okay.
Yeah, all the things that we do all week long, and we,
Yeah, we grin and bear it.
sometimes we don't bear it too well.
Well said. Well said. Well said.
Yeah.
That's a wonderful example of that. There's so much that can be learned from simple truth. And that truth will ripple through all of us again and again and again and again and again. And this is the beautiful thing about the book and the lessons that are spoken. You hear them and they change you, and you hear them again and they change you, and you hear them again and they change you. It's like you think you've heard it, but then you hear it. Well, why? Because remember, every moment you're a new you. So every moment you're really hearing it for the first time. If you let yourself transcend and go through the practice easily, and you let yourself go through, relatively speaking, conscious incarnation on a regular basis, literally every time you're having an experience, it can be the first time. And that's how you can erase all those old emotional programs and reactions, and you can be free of that, and you can live in love. Anyone else have a situation that they want to speak of like that? No? Okay.
Had a family member visit this past weekend that knows how to push my buttons. I always get sucked into whatever's going on. And this weekend I found myself not buying into it. It was the first time, really. So that was.
Isn't that a miracle?
Yeah.
Those are miracles. Karen.
Similar thing happened to me. It was remarkable. I was able to be the peaceful, compassionate, unconditioning, loving person I have tried and failed to be with the most challenging person in my life, my mom. For the last 68 years, she's been an alcoholic. And I was so calm and loving. It was remarkable. And she responded in a way that she never has.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, it was.
I mean, that's
And I was with
supernatural.
her 8 hours.
Wow.
Yeah.
You
And I typically
put
can't
your
tolerate
practice to the
10.
test.
Well, I didn't do anything.
I know.
I just absorbed what you said, and it was already in me. It was just effortless.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
Okay. And I know I'm being somatic, but I'm doing it for a reason, okay? You absorbed what was said. You didn't absorb what I said. You absorbed what was said. Remember, I don't want any personal identity associated with what comes through me. I don't want to be that kind of vessel. So you absorbed what was said. You absorbed the truth of God, not Keith's truth. You absorbed the truth of God, and it transformed you. You were healed by truth. It sets you free from the old relationship with your mother and gave you a brand new relationship with her. Did it not? Okay, this practice works. I mean, it works. And that's all I ask people to do. Don't engage in the practice in the space of faith or trust, okay? Just give the truth a chance to be the truth, and it'll prove itself. You know? And it'll prove itself again and again and again. That's why it's so important to share the stories with each other. Because I can tell you as the weeks go on and the months go on, and I say, did someone have a transformative experience? I'm going to have to pick, because everyone's going to have their hand up going, oh my God, I got to tell you one. I got to tell you one. And that leads me to our next thing. Okay, Sarah, I want to kind of segue a little bit into the whole blog idea.
Okay.
We're going to be working on getting a blog together so that when you're having these experiences all week long, we can all get on this blog, this practice blog, and we can just start sharing these experiences with each other. And so again, we can go on that blog. We can either share an experience, or we can do what? We can inspire. We can look at that blog and be what? Inspired.
This keeps hitting me again and again and again today, when you're saying expire, like an expiration of breath, but it's like when you die.
That's exactly what I mean by it.
Like
It's
when-
expiration. Let it die so you can let it live.
Yeah.
Let it die so you can let it live. Take that. That's the reason behind it. So we're going to be working on a blog, okay? And we don't really know, we're going to be honest, we don't really quite know how to set one of those up. So if anyone actually knows how to set a blog up, that would be helpful. We'll figure it out if not, but if anyone does, Sarah's our contact person. Just, if you have any insight or help or can give us any guidance, that'd be great. If not, it'll happen. There's no hurry. We'll share stories this way. So, I wanna watch our time. I don't want to take too much time with this, but I think it's really, really important. So I had an experience. You mind if I speak of our experience? Because I'm going to speak of it, and then I'm going to have you speak of it, which is much more important than me speaking of it. I've known Chaz since he was 13 years old. So we've had a wonderful, wonderful brother relationship for a long time. And what's happened to Chaz before this point in his life is not for me to speak of, because it's not my story, it's not mine to share. What I would love for you to share, as best as you can, Chaz, is just the synchronicity. Tell the story of, give us that tidbit you told me of kind of what you were going through prior, how you found out about the classes, and then how you felt the classes impacted you. I just want you to just take a few minutes and hear the story, because it really shows God at work. Okay? So would you do that for me, please? This is Chaz. Everyone welcome Chaz. And up
So I'm a drug and alcohol counselor, and about 2 years ago, I was working in financing. I've been sober for almost 5 years now, so I've personally been through it. I had a calling that I couldn't ignore any longer, which was to get out of the career that I was in and just to jump in with both feet to helping other people. And in that process, I had the opportunity to start my own sober living facility. And so my dad, who's a part of this with me, and then another gentleman, we started this process, and we found a building down in Cleveland. And the community was really fighting us really hard about doing this. There was a lot of fears and everything that goes with people in recovery. And I would hold these community meetings, and there'd be 200 plus people there, and I'd be on stage, explaining to them what we're doing and how it's going to get an impact on the community, and what it's going to do for these men's lives and the whole 9 yards. And I was getting attacked from every angle, and people were looking up things in my past, and I was on display, and I was extremely vulnerable, and it was really taking a toll on me. And I was at my parents' house one night, and my dad had like the practice laying out, and I just grabbed it before bed, and I laid in bed, and this was probably 10:30, and I just couldn't stop reading. And I've been seeing Dr. Jordan for a long time, but I'd never read the practice. And I read, I think, probably the first 70 pages that night, and I broke down into tears. And it was like a wave of just, I knew, like for the first time in my life, without any doubt, I knew that everything was going to be okay. Like, I knew that I had this timeline for how my business should start and finish, and how long this process should be, and I let go of it all, and I knew it was on God's time. This had nothing to do with me anymore. And whatever was supposed to happen will happen, and we ended up getting a building in Lakewood. And so we started that, and that was probably 3 months ago I read that. And then just randomly, I was like, I want to see, I called up here just to set an appointment for Dr. Jordan, and they were basically getting in 2018. So I got on the wait list, and I got in to see him yesterday. And we're in Lakewood now, and I found out about these classes. For the first time in my life, I went onto their website, and it was like in the bottom right-hand corner. Like it was like, oh, these classes. So I called an RCP, and I had no idea what I was walking into. And after last week's class, it was amazing, because I've had this calling to learn more about my spirituality, and I had desired to grow spiritually, but I didn't know what type of action to look. And for a while there, I was looking for like gurus, or I was thinking about going on like a retreat to California or whatever. And God put this book and this class in my life, and it's just one of those. And then Dr. Jordan and I were talking, and those 200 people that were there, yelling at me, what it was able to do for me for the first time in my life, I was able to be, I don't care what you guys think. And it was like Dr. Jordan said, it was 200 of your parents. And I was for the first time, and that process that I thought in the moment was the worst thing that could have turned out to be the greatest thing, because it took me from being a boy to a man, like in that process. And I'm grateful to be here, and thanks for letting me share my story.
Thanks,
I just think that's so neat. I just never get tired of hearing it. I just never get tired of hearing amazing things like that. Do I have a copy of practice somewhere in here? Is there one over there somewhere that I can grab? Isn't there? How funny. No, this is great. This is great. So I'm going to lead by example. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to flip the pages. We're going to find out what we're going to learn about tonight. We're doing okay with time? Or where are we at, Sarah? Quarter after? Okay, so we're going to have we're going to do a quick teaching, so it'll be about 10 minutes, and then I want to save about 5 minutes to do what we talked about at the end. We're slowly getting into the routine of the class. We'll get it back. Now with me, some people flip the pages. With me, I just hold it and I just see a number. That number just comes to life. So the number that I'm seeing very clearly is number 38. So let's go to 38. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to read a couple pages. We're going to get the gist of what we're supposed to be working on here, and then we're going to go ahead and do a little teaching on it. I suffered so much when I chose to go with feelings that I had to eventually give feelings up for good. How many times do I need to hit myself in the hand with that hammer before hitting myself in the hammer is no longer a choice? When I know that I'm going to hurt my hand, I stop hitting myself. That's when. I was surprised when I learned this truth. I surrendered and began letting go of feelings. I tried this out before I ever passed it on to my patients. You guys know I'm the biggest guinea pig. Everything I'm guided to do, I always practice on myself before I practice it with you guys to make sure that it's, I'm just not some delusional, crazy fool. Thank God. I tried this out before I ever passed it on to my patients, before I wrote about it. As I move into the space of releasing feelings and emotions, of course, that's when life challenged me the most. All right, so here we go, Chaz, this is you. And everybody else in this room, okay? Chaz, what you guys are going to learn as we go through this is everyone's story is everyone's story. Everyone's having the same experiences. The context may be different, but it's the same general experiences, okay? So we all have it in common. So we can learn from each other. We don't have to always go through them the same way. As I moved into the space of releasing feelings and emotions, of course, that's when life challenged me the most. That's the amazing thing about life. It gives you what you need to grow in consciousness. 200 screaming parents, right, Chad? Yeah. So that was exactly when my marriage became emotionally challenging, when my wife and I began to have children, and when I bought and renovated and moved into a new building that God had given me in a vision earlier. Now just think about this. You guys are sitting in a building that in 1996, God awoke me with, crying and said, you're going to buy an old hotel and turn it into a center for healing. We are sitting in that building right now. God, through life, gave me so much at once because those were the challenging times in my life when I'd fall back on feelings. I'd feel overwhelmed. There's just too much going on. I can't handle this. How can she do this to me? Doesn't she know how hard I'm working? Feelings. I had so many feelings, and sure, they were genuine, but were they good for me? Were they the best guides to my highest good and the highest good of my family? No. I just kept hitting myself with them. This was an important time for me. Life brought me when I needed to put the hammer down for good. Feelings are reactions. Okay? They're programmed reactions. We are taught how we are supposed to feel about what we do. Now think about that. We are taught how we're supposed to feel about what we do. If we do everything right, okay, we're supposed to feel what? Right. If we do something wrong, we're supposed to feel what? Okay, can we just stop? Can we just stop and question that? How is that useful at a certain point of consciousness? And remember, I know that some of your brains may say, well, yeah, but it helps, but we need to know we do something bad, so we don't do it. We need to. I get that, all right? That's why there's a purpose for sin, and there's a purpose for guilt, there's a purpose for all those things, okay? But at some point, it's not relevant. I see so many lovely people who have autoimmune diseases, okay? Because they're trying to do it all right, they're trying to be perfect, and they're just attacking themselves, and they're turning their immune system on themselves because they're the problem. They're not the problem. They're trying to have a level of control over how people react to them, and they think if they're perfect, okay, that will make it all okay. And they're committing suicide because of a simple misunderstanding that they never questioned. Here is your indicator, your intuition, your inner self. Do what you know is right. Feel good about it. Don't look for the outer world to dictate what you should do and how you should do it. I'm not going to get on my soapbox. I just want you to look at the current state of humanity. Why would you want to please that? Okay? It is unpleasable. It has an insatious appetite for more. Now. Please, Creator. Do what feels right and righteous within your heart. And as you practice that ongoing process, do not include punishment or condemnation when you fall a bit short. This is normal in life, okay? Isn't it? Has anyone not gone through life that way? Has anyone not had that experience in their life? Has anyone not had that? Okay. So if none of us if none of us in this room have not been beyond this experience, okay? And don't get me wrong, as you're in the practice, it kind of becomes this. You don't have to go back, okay? But you still stand still. It's just the way it is. But feelings are reactions we have to things. And we'll talk about feelings again and again and again, okay? How does your body feel when you feel fear? Andy, how does your body feel when you feel fear?
Oh, I'm tired of dragging it out.
Yeah, Kathy, how does your body feel when you feel fear?
Shitty.
Shitty. Shitty. How does your body feel when you feel overly concerned or worried?
Anxious.
Anxious.
But I'm also anxious about getting rid of my feelings.
That's right.
I had a knee-jerk reaction when we started talking about feelings. It was like intense as when I first started thinking about giving up sugar.
That's right.
It was like, no, I can't. I have to have it.
That's it. Okay? We become addicted to that. And we'll work on this a lot, okay? We're all recovering emotional holics, okay? We don't just trust peace and the truth. We believe we have to have a lot of emotional fluctuations. We believe we have to be overly animated, overly emotional, or we don't care and we're not concerned. How silly.
That's hilarious.
So funny because it's true, right, Karen? You know, someone will say, "Oh, so and so passed away," and I'll say, "Oh, okay." They look at me like, "Well, and?" Oh, okay. So feelings. Everyone's hit their hand with those feelings, right?
Yeah.
So all I'm going to ask, okay, that we do is let's just start to be aware of our feelings. Let's start to be aware of our feelings, what feelings we're having, whether they're really even appropriate, necessary, relevant, or are they just habitual? Because what you're going to find is most often they're the last. Your feelings are facilitated by familiar situations, and this is what I want to wake you up to tonight. Your feelings are facilitated by similar situations. If I walk into a room like this and a bucket of water falls on my head, okay, and it's a beigeish room and the lighting's low, and I walk in the room and the water falls on my head, okay, then I walk in the room again and it's got the same feeling and the water falls on my head, okay, I'm going to walk in another room and I'm going to assume that what's going to fall on my head? The water, right? Okay? So when you get in certain situations and you have a specific emotional experience, like, stand up, because he's nice and tall. So someone's looking down on you and they have a look, scrunch your eyes, and they have a look on their face, point your finger at me, okay? My brain is taking a picture of this whole situation, okay? And it's recording how I feel. Thank you, Scott. Okay, so the next time I'm in a situation, okay, and someone's standing at me like that, my body is taking information in, my nervous system, and going, okay, this looks like I'm being punished. I should feel nervous. I should feel worried. Even though, stand up, Chaz. Chaz isn't doing any of those things, is he? But my body takes a picture and goes, this resembles what Scott was doing. I must have done something wrong because someone larger than me is looking down on me and talking to me. I must have done. So you get triggered, thank you. You get triggered into that emotional pattern. And in some people, they get stuck. And they constantly feed unconscious anxiety. All the time. So what I'm asking you to do is just investigate your feelings. Investigate the validity of your feelings. Investigate how much you're feeling something, and is it really true? Are your feelings really true? And then realize that you have been making decisions based on an unreliable navigation tool. And this is what we'll work on all together. We want to continue to let go of feelings. And again, I'm not anti-feelings. I just want you to recognize them for what they are. I'm not anti-religion. I'm not anti-anything. I'm a pro guy. I'm not an anti-guy. I'm a pro guy. I'm pro-intuitive. I want you to have a deeper, longer sense of perception, a deeper, longer sense of the eternity of life, so that when you have emotional experiences, you have them in a context that is more dilutive, which means it spreads them out. You don't feel like I'm having this feeling, I have to do something right now. No, you're having a feeling, have a feeling, don't make a decision. Let the feeling pass. reflect on the feeling, think about the feeling, meditate on the feeling, then make a decision. Don't let emotions make decisions. Now, if you're being chased by a tiger or someone's shooting you with a gun, by all means, let your fear make you run your little fan gun. Or if someone's assaulting you and you need to get really fired up to defend yourself, okay. But how often are those situations really happening? Yet how often are we having the feelings? Feelings are a part of a very survivalistic nature of our brain, our nervous system. Okay, they've been keeping us alive. All right. But now that we're realizing we're eternal, we don't want to be kept alive and uncomfortable. We want to live eternally in peace. And to do that, we have to be aware of our feelings. We'll talk about feelings a lot. We're going to do a lot of homework on feelings. We done? What time is it? 7:23. Okay, beautiful. So that's our little teaching. That's our little class. How's everyone like how it's starting to come together? Good? Good? Everyone feel like it's a worthwhile endeavor? Everyone feel like it's something they're getting something good out of? Yeah. I think it's amazing. The best part for me is getting more and more of you to stand up and talk about certain things in your life. So eventually, okay, I will be intuitively guided to just continue to call on people, and eventually, everyone will be called on. Okay, and when it's your time to be called on, I ask that whenever you're called by God, you just stand up. You're in a wonderful, safe place here. You can be completely comfortable speaking from your heart. Let that happen, okay? So I've got 5 minutes left. I'm going to make myself available. Anybody who wants to come up and receive, I'll be happy to give you all I can in a few seconds. We have the cars need to be moved at 7:30, so we'll be conscious of time. So Sarah, I want you to let me know whenever it's 7:30, and then we'll stop. If anybody wants to come up and receive, I'm here. If not, that's great too. If you feel like you received enough, that's great too, but I want to make myself available, okay? So I'm going to turn on a little music for a few minutes so everyone can feel like the world isn't focusing on them if they come up. And we'll do that. We got just a few minutes, so it's great. I have a perfect song that I want to play for you guys. It's called Let Go. There's beauty in the breakdown.
Frou-frou.
You heard that song before?
Yeah, Garden State. It's awesome.
So listen to the music. You got a few minutes. Just hang out. If you're going to stay in the room, please hold a space of love for everyone that I'm working with. Let's all be together in this.
Beauty and exploration.
Who wants to have a little experience with you? Want to have one, Karen? So Karen, this is all about you just completely being in your heart. Trusting love. Trusting a love greater than you to mend your relationships and heal your life around you. There isn't anything you can do to make your relationship with your mother better, but there's a lot you can allow God to do. As you inspire God what He put in you, you give God complete power over that relationship. The same God that gave birth to that mother, the same God that gave birth to you. Not loving her as her daughter, but loving her as love. That makes it completely different. Everybody give me a wonderful intention with Don here. Don deals with a stubborn frequency of arthritis that just makes it difficult. Don's doing wonderful work on changing everything. He's really been much more flexible. So anyone who's dealing with any type of arthritis right now, I want you to realize that we don't need to be more flexible around the arthritis. That's overcompensation. We need to let the arthritic pattern become more flexible in and of itself. We need to believe that that which seems completely impossible is possible. We don't need to let that which is flexible be more flexible. We need that which does not believe it can be flexible to embrace the total possibility within God that it can be completely flexible. And whether that's an inflexibility of the mind, the thought pattern, the belief, or the body, whatever is most resistant, that's what requires the flexibility and the change. Thank you, Don. Anybody else? Anybody else?
Brandon.
Anybody?
Brandon.
Anybody? Why not? Why would you say no to love? Why would you say no to love? This is lungs. Beautiful. Repeat, I don't need to grieve. my old life anymore. It served me well. I watch it pass with joy as I rejoice in my new life. My heart more open, my spirit more free than ever before. Beautiful, beautiful. Repeat, nothing can retard
Nothing can retard
the healing power of God.
the healing power of God.
Let all my matter
Let all my matter
be reorganized.
be reorganized.
I have no interest in being
I have no interest in being
who I was.
who I was.
I am only interested in being
I'm only interested in being
who I am meant to be now.
who I am meant to be now.
Beautiful, Scott. Beautiful. Angela, beautiful. Repeat, my problems are not mine
My problems are not mine
to fix.
to fix.
They are mine to witness.
They are mine to live.
The God that loves me unconditionally,
The God that loves me unconditionally.
fixing
Fix me
so that I may love
so that I may love
even more than I do
even more than I do.
the force that created me.
The force that created me.
I am here to witness,
I'm here to witness,
not be the fixer,
not be the fixer,
but to witness the fixer
but to witness the fixer.
in a place of
In a
acceptance.
place of acceptance.
Beautiful. Brandon. Beautiful. I have an infinite ability
Have an infinite ability
to be understanding and patient
to be understanding and patient
when I know my heart
when I know my heart
belongs to someone
belongs to someone
that it should.
that it should.
I give up all need to possess my own heart.
I give up all need to possess my own heart.
I embrace the heart of God
I embrace the heart of God
and share it with my wife.
and share it with my wife.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Kathy. I'm done being controlled by what is primitive, locked in space and time.
Locked in space and time.
Today I emerge
Today I emerge
from my mortality
from my mortality
and fly into my immortal space.
and fly into my immortal space.
I release the bondage of time
I release the bondage of
and
time
all the chains it put on me.
and all the chains it put on me.
I am free to be who I am,
I am free to be who I
who
am,
God's asking me to be,
who God's asking me to be,
and bless everyone in my life
and bless everyone in my life
with that person.
with that person.
I am a burden no more,
I am a burden no more,
so I will carry those burdens no more.
so I will carry those burdens no more.
Let the lightness of my true being
Let the lightness of my true being
be my true healer.
be my true healer.
Beautiful. This is a beautiful one. This is a beautiful one. I carry with me no longer destructive physical cycles. I'm here to represent the order of God manifesting now. I do not have to fear where I came from, because I come from order and health, enlightenment and love. I abort all those old cycles with gratitude. Beautiful. I release all identity
I release all identity.
from when I do. My true identity
My true identity
can never be taken. The identity of God
the identity of God
is my birthright. It is mine forever, never to be taken, never to be possessed, never to be used for anything else but the greatest good of God's will. Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much. Thank you.